Welcome to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. Hope everyone's doing well today. We have a couple of stories I'm following, and we're going to look at some comments that Louis Kasman made on Jeff Nadeau's sit-down show a few days ago, including his speculation that John Gotti Jr. is using his son to make money, and then a few other comments that he made. We addressed that along with my thoughts on the John Gotti fight. I also have a very interesting mob story to share with you. So please hit the like button and consider subscribing to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. And without further delay, on to our feature presentation. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about Louis Kasman. Um, on Friday, Jeff Nadeau invited Louis Kasman to his show. And this is what it seems like to me is that he's going to have Louis come on a weekly basis, and they're going to do a show. And a lot of it is because Louis Kasman obviously was around John Gotti. He was close to him. He knows a lot of the stories and all of that. And so, at least for the time being, it sounds like the plan is that Jeff Nadeau's going to have Louis on, I believe, on a weekly basis. On Friday, they were talking about the upcoming fight between John Gotti III and Floyd Mayweather. And, while they were talking about that, they were also going into John Gotti Jr. And it's very apparent that there's no love lost between John Gotti Jr. and Louis Kasman. I know previously I had shared information that John Gotti Jr. had said about Louis Kasman. And now we're hearing, statements, on these interviews with Jeff Nadeau, what Louis Kasman thinks of John Gotti Jr. And so, to be fair, Jeff Nadeau did defend the Gottis in a few cases. I have like a 1-minute clip from that interview that Jeff Nadeau did with Louis Kasman. I just want to play that, and then we can discuss it.
John III, from what I see and what I read, he's a very talented fighter. And in my opinion, this is all about the money. He's not going to beat Mayweather. Mayweather's not going to let him beat him. He doesn't want to beat him. He wants the payday because, according to his father, I'm out of the life.
Right.
So I guess he needs income. No, I mean, he's an excellent athlete. You could see that. You read what people say about him. He's an outstanding athlete. I just hope that his dad, gives him his fair share of the purse, and he doesn't need to do this anymore, because based on what you read and what the purse is, he could retire, raise his family, get married, have a wonderful life, and not step into the ring again. And
yeah, I mean,
let's just hope, make a lot of money. Based on John Jr.'s past track record, when it comes to money is his god. Jr. is a very controlling person. So John III is doing nothing without the permission and the blessing of his father, because that's just who John is.
Really?
So, yeah. If John didn't want him in the Mayweather fight, he's not in the Mayweather fight.
There's a few things to digest here. So, the first part of it is that what Louis says is that, he's concerned that John Gotti Jr. is going to, take the purse, take the money that is supposed to go to John Gotti III. And, that just doesn't make any sense. And so he's involved he's got a lot of real estate. He's got companies that he's, totally invested in, that he helps to run. He's doing the stuff with burners. So, he's got a lot on his own that's going on. And, he's definitely not in the need for money. And then the second thing he was talking about is he was saying that John Gotti Jr.'s controlling, and that John Gotti III would not do this bout with Floyd Mayweather if it wasn't the blessings of John Gotti Jr. And so I actually have another video I'm going to show that where John Gotti Jr. talks about this. Coast City, here's John Gotti Jr. talking about his son having this opportunity to get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather.
It's not what I would have not wanted my son to do this. Again, as I had said earlier, it's not the profession I chose for my boy. He chose it for himself. It's his dream. The excitement, you can see, the way he answers his questions. He wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And the simple fact, how often can a fighter that in his pro career, his amateur career MMA, his pro career at MMA, very successful, but after only having 2 pro boxing matches, to be in with the great Floyd Mayweather, come on. I mean, how many fighters that paid with their blood and their sweat would give one of their digits to be fighting Floyd Mayweather?
It's an honor.
John is graced with that. This moment, this opportunity will not get lost on John. Believe me, he'll make us all proud. He's going to do his job.
Yeah, so you can see here that his father did not really want him going in the ring. He didn't want him taking this path in life originally, but he also saw the passion that John Gotti III had, and he does like a lot of fathers. He supports his children. So you can't really say anything negative in my view with that. And as far as the fight goes, I look at this a little different than a lot of you. A lot of people are saying, oh, it was a boring fight. Yeah, it was a boring fight. Neither fighter got knocked down. Neither fighter was really in any bad shape. You didn't see any marks on either fighter. Yeah, it might have been boring. I agree with that. Wasn't a lot of action, but look at what he accomplished. He's able to get 2 good paydays out of this. I mean, he's able to get, endorsements from this. He's able to enhance his value. Back to Louis Kasman. So in Gangland, there was an article that Capisi wrote. This was back in 2011. And, I'll just read part of it. But this tells you what you need to know about Louis Kasman. Okay, so the fast-talking stool pigeons again spewing venom on judges and lawyers from New York to Florida. This time, one of his targets, Garden City-based attorney Barry Levin, is fighting mad, to say the least. Levin said that since Kasman got a free pass for crimes he committed while working for the feds, he's been trying to extort money from lawyers involved in a contentious divorce battle between Kasman and his ex-wife. They said that Kasman sued his own lawyer for malpractice. And then around the same time, Levin reports that he received a phone call from a nameless, anonymous voice who sounded an awful lot like Kasman, demanding that the lawyer return a $50,000 fee he received for work he did for Eileen Kasman, or face the consequences. So basically, a threat came in, and it sounds like it came from Louis Kasman. And man, this lawyer was mad. He said, like I told the dirtbag who called me, I'm not giving Kasman a quarter, but if he wants to get in the ring with me with all proceeds going to charity and he stays on his feet for 1 round, I'll return the fee to the person who paid me, not him, and then give him $50,000. Here's something that I found that was interesting. So, we hear Louis Kasman talking about how he's saying that John Gotti Jr. stealing from his kids. Well, according to Capisi, and I've read this in other articles, the convicted perjurer who borrowed $277,000 from his kid's college fund while working for the FBI and hasn't paid it back, and who admits lying in affidavits and depositions during his divorce case. So there was a trust fund for the kids, and he took it. There was $277,000 in there, and he took it. What we know is that Kasman started working as an FBI informant in 1997, like January, February of 1997. And he wore a wire for 5 years, at least. Actually, it's saying here 11 years, but, he wore the wire. We know that when John Gotti died in 2002, he was wearing the wire. He also later went to the hospital and visited John Gotti's widow, who had just had a stroke, and that conversation had been recorded. Then what Kasman's saying is, as far as his own marital problems and lawyer feuds, Kasman states in his $2 million lawsuit against Fort Lauderdale attorney Barry Rotterman that the lawyer was involved in an inappropriate personal relationship with his ex-wife's attorney. And as a result, Rotterman was guilty of extortion as well as legal malpractice, breach of fiduciary duty, and breach of contract. So I'm not sure what happened there, but he was suing his lawyers. And let's see. And they said there's just a slew of litigation going against his lawyers. In addition to the Rotterman suit, he had one against a second attorney, also charged other Florida attorneys and judges with malpractice during the 3 years his divorce case was in the courts. Among other things, Ms. Kasman won $439,000 from the sale of their home and judgments totaling $350,000, which Kasman has not paid. And this is as of 2011, and the divorce had been finalized in October 2009. And then the attorney Levin was saying, here's what he says about Louis Kasman. Louis Kasman's a pathological liar and a pathetic human being. All I did was try to protect his ex-wife and help her recoup the hundreds of thousands of dollars he stole from his children's trust funds. The work I did for Eileen Kasman is documented in a transfile of my work product. That this subhuman waste product is allowed to be in society and to extort all the lawyers involved in his divorce case is a sad example of what cooperating witnesses can get away with under the guise of government protection. Kasman was a paid FBI informant in 1997, wore a wire against numerous mobsters and members of Gotti's family, including his widow, from 2005 to 2007, pleaded guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, and other crimes he committed while working for the feds. And his sentence was 3 years of supervised release. You make your own decision what you think about him, but the one, it wasn't John Gotti Jr. stealing from his children. If anyone stole from their children, it was Louis Kasman. Oh, that's all I wanted to say on that. Okay, the final thing I wanted to talk about today was actually wanted to share a mob story with you. I find this story fascinating. I hope that you do too. But you actually have a physician, a doctor that was an inducted member of the Genovese family. So his name was Philip Noto. Dr. Noto has a really interesting history, and I just wanted to share a couple of things about him. So Philip Noto was born on February 3rd, 1903 in Monreale, Sicily. So his parents was Giuseppe Noto and Carmelo Canarito. Noto graduated from Bologna University in 1928, and he actually practiced medicine for 2 years in Italy. And then he came to America when he was 28 years old in 1931, and he settled in Passaic, New Jersey. Noto served his residency at the New York City University Medical Center. He was a physician for the city of Passaic from 1950 to 1960, and he was also the city's health officer for 20 years. So that was from 1955 to 1975. He was made a diplomat of the International College of Surgeons in 1947. He was also a founder and medical director of the International Longshoremen's Association. He was named the Man of the Year in 1978 and served on the board of directors of the Boys Club. And he was a member of the Elks Lodge, the Clifton YMCA. And they said when he came to the United States from Sicily with the medical degree, he would secretly become a made member of the Genovese family. And their thinking was sometime in the late 40s or early 1950s. And Noto was a member of the Genovese New Jersey faction. And so initially he was in Willie Moretti's crew. And then Jerry Catena became the leader after Moretti was, rubbed out. And what he would do, he would use his medical office in New Jersey as a meeting spot for the Genovese family. So in the early days, you had many legitimate people. You had doctors, lawyers, and businessmen who were made guys. And back in the day, the mafia wasn't just about making money. It was a secret society where all members benefited from the networking with each other. And it was a philosophy that helped the members gain privileges in their communities. So a member always had to help another member out whenever he could and to the best of his ability. So, for example, in Dr. Noto's case, let's say a mobster got wounded and needed emergency medical care. He could turn to Noto without going to a hospital and getting questioned by the police. The Notos were actually related to the De Cavalcantes, and they were both from the same village of Monreal. They said that Noto had a brother named Danny, and they were both cousins with Sam the plumber. And they're thinking that his late father, Frank, might have been their uncle. Dr. Noto, like I said, had a younger brother named Danny Noto. He was originally a Genovese made member in the New York crew of Frank Solano. And this was during the late 50s and 60s. And, what was kind of interesting about him, Dr. Noto was in New Jersey, but Danny Noto actually lived in Bath Beach, Brooklyn originally. But then later he moved out and was going between New Jersey and Florida. So anyway, in 1963, Dr. Noto sought Jerry Catena's help in transferring his brother Danny Noto into the De Cavalcanti family and relocate to Jersey. But Tommy Eberly, who was Danny Noto's captain at the time, was apprehensive, but then somehow Jerry Catena was able to resolve the dispute. So everything was okay for all parties. And from my understanding, the Genovese were actually happy to give up Danny Noto to the De Cavalcantes because they weren't really too fond of him. And I guess what they said about Danny was he was an unreasonable man. So he must have been difficult to deal with. He was kind of the opposite personality of Dr. Philip Noto. But anyway, Noto was also the principal contact with the De Cavalcante crime family for the Genovese. So he was really the liaison, from the Genovese to the De Cavalcantes. So if the De Cavalcantes needed something or Sam the plumber needed something, they would go through Dr. Noto. And they said Jerry Catena wanted to assist Sam De Cavalcante in getting used to his recent boss promotion and told him to contact Dr. Noto if he needed Catena's help settling any New Jersey affairs. But, what I can tell you is that Dr. Noto was a mysterious figure. He had no traces of any crimes committed, nor had he ever served any jail time. He ended up dying in 1984. I think he was 81 years old when he passed. But, it's kind of an interesting story. You got a guy that, was a doctor, a physician. He was basically he was just hiding in plain sight. I just think it's these are the stories I find interesting because, it's not that every mobster was a Roy DeMeo or whatever. So anyway, I hope you like that. And then next time I'll tell you about the doctor that was a mob boss of the Cleveland mob. That's another interesting story. And he actually caught a bad demise. So that's for next time as we're running out of time. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please hit the like button and consider subscribing. I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know what you think about, Louis Kasman, his comments. What do you think about John Gotti Jr.? Do you think that what's his role within John Gotti III? Do you think he's overstepping his bounds? And anyway, I'd love to hear your comments, and we'll go ahead and close the show. And so just hope everyone takes care, stay safe, and God bless you always.